slowly against the stars. Inside its walls, creatures from 100 different worlds came to watch fights and bet their money on who would win. The air smelled like sweat, fear, and alien spices that made human noses burn. Commander Lee Hannah pressed her face against the thick glass window and watched the crowd below. She had never seen so many different types of beings in one place. Some walked on 2 legs, like humans, others crawled on 6 legs or floated in the air. A few were so strange that she could not tell which end was their head. "Look at them," said Kim Jasung, standing next to her. He was her friend and fellow diplomat from Earth. "They are all here to watch someone get hurt." Hannah nodded, but did not look away from the arena below. In the center was a round fighting platform with bright lights shining down on it. Around the platform sat thousands of aliens, all making loud noises and waving what looked like money in the air. "The champion fights again today," Jae-sung said, checking his tablet. "Vexstar, the Unbending. They say he has never lost a match." Hannah had heard of Vexstar. Everyone in the galaxy had heard of him. He was a Korath warrior who stood 9 feet tall and had dark scales covering his body like armor. For 3 years, he had fought in this arena and never lost. But that was not what made him famous. Vexstar did not just beat his opponents, he broke them. He would hurt their bodies, yes, but more than that, he would destroy their minds. He would talk to them during the fight, saying things that made them give up hope. Many fighters who faced him never fought again. Some never spoke again. "Why does Earth care about these fights?" Hannah asked, though she already knew the answer. Jae-sung sighed. "Because the Korath care about these fights, and right now, we need the Korath to like us." The trade talks between Earth and the Korath Empire had been going badly for months. Earth needed rare metals that only the Korath controlled. But the Korath wanted Earth to accept unfair deals that would make humans little more than servants. "The Korath think we are weak," Jae-sung continued. "They think all humans are soft and scared. If we could show them that we are strong, ... A loud roar came from the arena below. The crowd was getting excited because the day's first fight was about to start. A small furry creature with 4 arms walked onto the platform. Across from it came a tall, thin being that looked like it was made of living rock. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. The rock creature hit the furry one so hard that it flew across the platform and did not get up. The crowd cheered and waved their money again. "Brutal," Jae-sung said, turning away from the window. But Hannah kept watching. She had been studying these fights for weeks, learning how they worked. She knew that tomorrow would bring the biggest fight of the year. Vexstar would face his next victim, and thousands of beings would bet on how quickly the champion would win. A door opened behind them, and Admiral Park Tae-ho walked in. He was the head of Earth's military forces in this sector of space. His face looked tired and worried. "Commander Hannah, Colonel Kim," he said, using their formal titles. "We need to talk." They followed him to a small meeting room. The walls were covered with screens showing news from across the galaxy. Most of the news was not good for Earth. "The Korath have made their final offer," Admiral Park said, sitting down heavily. "We accept their trade terms, or they will consider it an act of war." Hannah felt her stomach tighten. Earth was not ready for war with the Korath Empire. The aliens had bigger ships, better weapons, and more soldiers than humans could imagine. But they have also made another offer. The Admiral continued a challenge. He touched a button, and one of the screens showed a message written in the flowing script of the Korath language. Below it was a translation in simple English. "They want us to send our best warrior to fight Vexstar," Admiral Park said. "If our fighter wins, they will give us fair trade terms. If our fighter loses, ... He did not need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen if Earth's warrior lost. "It is not a fight to the death," the Admiral added quickly. "It is a battle of wills. Our fighter has 1 hour to make Vexstar surrender. If Vexstar does not give up in 1 hour, Earth accepts the Korath terms." Jae-sung laughed, but there was no humor in it. 1 hour to beat a champion who has never lost? "That is impossible, maybe," said Admiral Park. "But it is the only chance we have. I have already chosen our fighter. Colonel Park Dongmin is our best soldier. He has won medals in combat and trained in martial arts his whole life. Hannah had met Colonel Park before. He was strong, fast, and brave. But she had watched Vexstar's fights on video. The Korath champion did not just rely on strength. He was smart, patient, and cruel. He would find Colonel Park's weaknesses and use them. Admiral Hannah said slowly, "I want to volunteer." Both men stared at her. Admiral Park's face showed confusion. Jae-sung's face showed fear. "Commander, you are not a soldier," the admiral said. "You are a diplomat. This is not your job." "With respect, sir," Hannah replied, "I have been studying Vexstar for months. I know how he fights. I know how he thinks. Colonel Park is a good soldier, but this is not about being a good soldier." She stood up and walked to one of the screens. With a few touches, she brought up videos of Vexstar's recent fights. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. In every fight, Vexstar does the same thing. He starts by showing off his strength. Then he begins to talk. He finds out what his opponent fears most, and uses those fears against them. The video showed Vexstar fighting a large armored alien. The champion was clearly stronger, but instead of ending the fight quickly, he kept talking. He spoke about the alien's family, about how disappointed they would be to see their warrior lose. Within minutes, the alien was crying and could not fight anymore. "He breaks their minds first," Hannah said. "Then their bodies follow." Admiral Park frowned. "And you think you can resist that? You think you can last 1 hour against someone who has defeated hundreds of fighters?" Hannah looked at both men. She thought about her years in the military, about the battles she had fought, and the soldiers she had led. She thought about the bullies she had faced in training, and how she had learned to deal with them. "I think," she said quietly, "that Vexstar has never fought someone like me." The admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "I cannot allow it. You are too important to risk. The colonel will fight." But as they left the meeting room, Jae-sung pulled Hannah aside. "You are serious about this," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," she replied. "I am serious." "Why? Why do you want to face that monster?" Hannah looked out the window at the arena again. The crowd was still cheering and betting. Tomorrow, they would all be watching Earth's champion try to do the impossible. "Because," she said, "I know something about Vexstar that no one else knows, and I think it might be enough." Fighter to face Vexstar the Unbending. Within hours, every betting house from the core worlds to the outer rim was taking bets on the match. The odds were not good for Earth. 10,000 to 1, said Jae-sung, reading from his tablet as he sat in the space station's small Earth embassy office. "That means if you bet 1 credit on Earth winning, you get 10,000 credits back." Hannah looked up from the pile of books and data files spread across her desk. She had been reading for 6 hours straight, and her eyes hurt. But she could not stop now. "At least someone thinks we can win," she said with a tired smile. "No," Jae-sung replied. "These odds mean everyone thinks we will lose. The only reason the odds are not worse is because some gamblers like to bet on impossible things, just in case." Admiral Park had finally agreed to let Hannah fight instead of Colonel Park Dong-min. It took 3 hours of arguing, but Hannah had convinced him that this battle needed a different kind of warrior. Colonel Park was a good man, but he thought like a soldier. This fight would not be won with muscle and training. "What are you reading?" Jae-sung asked, moving closer to look at the books. "Everything I can find about the Korath," Hannah said. She picked up a thick book with strange writing on the cover. "Their history, their culture, their language, but mostly, I am learning about Vexstar." She had discovered something interesting in the old records. The champion's real name was not Vexstar. That was just his fighting name, given to him when he became champion. His birth name was Korthak, which meant eternal warrior in the old Korath language. But there was more, much more. "Look at this," Hannah said, pointing to a page in one of her books. Vexstar was not born into the warrior caste. The Korath have a very strict social system. Warriors are born to warrior families. Servants are born to servant families. No one is supposed to change their place in life. Jae-sung sat down and looked at the page. The writing was in Korean, but there was a translation below it. It says here that Korthok was born to a family of cleaning servants. Jae-sung read. His parents cleaned the floors in warrior training halls. They were the lowest class in Korean society. Exactly, Hannah said, her voice getting excited. But somehow, this servant's son became the greatest warrior in the galaxy. Do you know how hard that must have been? Do you know what he must have gone through? Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. Hannah, I understand what you are thinking. You want to feel sorry for him. But this creature has destroyed hundreds of fighters. He has ruined lives and broken minds. He is not someone who deserves your sympathy. Maybe, Hannah said. But he might be someone who needs it. The door to their office opened, and a tall human woman walked in. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen, and she was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. Commander Hannah, Dr. Chen said, Admiral Park asked me to help you prepare for the fight. Though I have to say, I think this whole plan is crazy. Everyone thinks it is crazy, Hannah replied. That is why it might work. Dr. Chen sat down and opened her own tablet. I have been studying videos of Vexter's fights. His psychological tactics are very advanced. He seems to know exactly what will hurt his opponents the most. She touched her tablet screen, and a video began to play. It showed Vexter fighting a large, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. The alien was strong and fast, but Vexter was not trying very hard to hurt him physically. Instead, the Korath champion was talking. Your family will see this fight, Vexter was saying in his deep, rough voice. They will watch you fail. They will know that you are weak. Your children will be ashamed to call you their parent. On the video, the blue alien began to move slower. His attacks became wild and desperate. Within minutes, he was on his knees, crying. He surrendered without Vexter even touching him. This is what you will face, Dr. Chen said. He will find your deepest fears and use them against you. Every fighter who has faced him has broken down within 20 minutes. Hannah watched the video again. She studied Vexter's face as he spoke. His dark scales did not show emotion the way human skin did, but she thought she saw something in his yellow eyes. He does not enjoy it, she said quietly. Dr. Chen asked, look at his eyes when he says those cruel things. He does not smile, he does not look happy, he looks ... tired. Dr. Chen and Jae-sung both stared at her. Hannah, Jae-sung said slowly, you cannot feel sorry for someone who is trying to destroy our world. But Hannah was not listening anymore. She was thinking about what she had read in the Korath history books. She was thinking about a servant's son who had fought his way to the top of a warrior society that did not want him. She was thinking about what it must be like to be the strongest fighter in the galaxy and have no friends. I need to see more videos, she said. All of them. Every fight he has ever had. For the next 8 hours, Hannah watched fights. She watched Vexter defeat warriors from dozens of different worlds. She watched him break their spirits with words instead of weapons. But she also watched his face. She studied his movements. She looked for things that other people might miss. What she found surprised her. In his earliest fights. When he was still young and trying to prove himself, Vexter had been different. He had been angry and hungry for victory. He had enjoyed beating his opponents, but as the years passed and his reputation grew, something had changed. The joy was gone. The hunger was gone. Now he looked like someone doing a job that he did not want to do anymore. He is tired, Hannah said to herself, as she watched his most recent fight. He is so tired of being the champion. The next morning, 3 Korath ships arrived at Nexus Prime. They were long and dark, shaped like spears, and covered in weapons. The largest ship carried War Master Vekvan, the leader of the Korath military forces in this part of space. They brought recording equipment, Jace reported after watching the ship's dock. They want to film the fight and show it across the galaxy. They want everyone to see Earth lose. Hannah was still reading, But now she was studying something different. She had found records of interviews that Vexstar had given to sports reporters. Over the years, most of the questions were about his fighting techniques or his training methods, but a few reporters had asked about his personal life. "Listen to this," she said, reading from her tablet. A reporter asked him about his friends. Vexstar said, "Champions do not have friends. They have opponents, admirers, and enemies. Nothing else. Does that sound like someone who is happy? It sounds like someone who is dangerous." Dr. Chen said, "Hannah, you need to focus on protecting yourself, not on feeling sorry for your opponent." But Hannah had made up her mind. She had found Vexstar's weakness, and it was not what anyone expected. His weakness was not physical. It was not even mental, in the way most people thought about it. Vexstar's weakness was loneliness. "I know what I have to do," she said, closing her books and standing up. "I know how to beat him." "How?" Jae-sung asked. Hannah looked out the window at the arena where she would fight tomorrow. The maintenance crews were already preparing it for the biggest match in years. Soon, thousands of aliens would fill the seats to watch a human try to do the impossible. "By giving him something no opponent has ever given him before," she said. "What is that?" Hannah smiled for the first time in days. Understanding that evening, as the space station filled with more spectators and reporters, Hannah sat alone in her small room. She was not training her body for the fight. She was not practicing combat moves or studying weapon techniques. Instead, she was preparing her mind for something that had never been tried before. She was getting ready to face the galaxy's most feared warrior, not with violence, but with compassion. Tomorrow would show whether understanding could be stronger than fear. The betting houses were still giving 10,000 to 1 odds against Earth. But Hannah was no longer worried about the odds. She was thinking about a lonely champion who had forgotten how to be anything except unbeatable. Beneath the fighting platform, listening to the sounds above her head, thousands of alien voices were shouting, cheering, and making bets. The metal floor under her feet shook with the noise. "5 minutes until the match begins," said a voice over the speakers. The voice spoke in Standard Galactic, the language that most species use to talk to each other. Hannah looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. She wore simple Earth military clothes, green pants, black boots, and a brown jacket with her name and rank on it. At her side was a basic combat knife, the only weapon she had chosen to bring. The door opened, and Jae-sung walked in. His face was pale and worried. "The crowd is huge," he said. "I have never seen so many different species in one place. There are beings here from the far edge of the galaxy. Everyone wants to watch this fight." "Good," Hannah said, though her stomach felt tight with nervousness. "The more who see it, the better." "Are you sure about this plan?" Jae-sung asked for the 100th time. "It is not too late to change your mind. We could tell them you are sick. Admiral Park could send Colonel Park instead." Hannah shook her head. "No, this has to be me." A loud drumming sound began above them. It was slow and deep, like a giant heartbeat. The Korath war drums were calling their champion to battle. "He is entering the arena," Jae-sung said, checking his tablet. "The crowd is going crazy." Hannah closed her eyes and took deep breaths. She thought about everything she had learned about Vexstar, about his real name, his past, and the loneliness she had seen in his eyes. She thought about the servant boy who had become a champion through strength and will. "Commander Lee Hannah of Earth," the voice over the speakers called. "Enter the arena." The door in front of her opened, and bright light flooded in. The noise hit her like a wave. Hannah walked up a short ramp and stepped onto the fighting platform. The platform was a perfect circle, about 50 feet across. It was made of some kind of metal that gleamed under the bright lights. Around the platform, rising up like the inside of a bowl, were seats filled with aliens. She could see creatures with wings, beings made of living crystal, and things that looked like walking trees, but her attention was drawn to the figure on the other side of the platform. Vexstar, the Unbending, stood waiting for her. He was even bigger than she had expected. 9 feet tall and covered in dark scales that looked like armor. His arms were thick as tree trunks, and his claws gleamed sharp and white. In his hands, he held his plasma glaive, a long weapon that glowed with deadly energy. The crowd fell silent as they looked at the two fighters. Then someone started laughing. The laughter spread through the alien spectators as they saw the size difference. A few began making jokes in languages Hannah could not understand. In the special section reserved for important guests, Warmaster Vekvan sat with other higher-ranking Korath officials. They had set up cameras to record the fight. Vekvan's face showed what might have been amusement. To him, this was not a real fight. It was entertainment. "This is your champion," Vextar called across the platform. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Earth sends me a small female with a tiny knife." More laughter from the crowd. Some aliens were already getting up to leave, thinking the fight would be over too quickly to be worth watching. "I am honored to face the great Vextar," Hannah said, her voice carrying clearly across the arena. "I have studied your victories. You are truly a master warrior." Vextar tilted his large head. He had expected her to try to sound brave or angry. He had not expected politeness. "In 1 hour, your world will bow to the Korath Empire," he said, "but I will not make you wait that long. Surrender now, and I will make your defeat quick and painless." "I cannot do that," Hannah replied. "Too many people are counting on me." The fight judge, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms, raised one hand. "Fighters, ready." Both Hannah and Vextar nodded. "Begin." The crowd roared as Vextar began to move, but he did not attack right away. Instead, he walked slowly around the edge of the platform, his plasma glaive humming with power. This was how all his fights started, with a show of strength. Designed to frighten his opponent, he stopped and swung his weapon at the air. The plasma blade left a bright trail of light. He hit the metal floor of the platform, and sparks flew everywhere. The crowd cheered at the display. "Do you see this power?" Vextar called to Hannah. "This weapon has ended hundreds of careers. It has made warriors beg for mercy." Hannah watched him, but did not seem afraid. She stood in the center of the platform, her small knife still in its holder on her belt. She had not even taken it out yet. "Your weapon is very beautiful," she said. "It must take great skill to use it properly." Again, Vextar paused. Her words were not what he expected. Most fighters would be trying to look brave or making threats by now. But this human seemed genuinely interested in his weapon. "You think flattery will save you?" he asked. But his voice sounded less certain than before. "I think respect is important," Hannah replied. "You have earned your reputation through years of hard work." Vextar decided to stop playing games. He charged across the platform, his heavy feet making the metal ring like a bell. He swung his plasma glaive in a wide arc that would have cut a normal opponent in half. But Hannah was not there anymore. She had stepped aside at the last second, moving just enough to avoid the blade. The crowd gasped at how close she had come to being hit. "Too slow," Vextar growled, spinning around to face her again. For the next 5 minutes, he attacked over and over. He used all his best moves, high slashes, low sweeps, and spinning strikes that created walls of deadly light. Each time, Hannah managed to avoid being hit. But she was not fighting back. She was only defending, only surviving. The crowd began to get excited. This was lasting longer than most people had expected. Some aliens started cheering for the small human who was somehow staying alive against the champion. But Hannah was doing more than just surviving. She was watching. She was learning. Every attack showed her something new about Vextar's fighting style. More importantly, every move showed her something about the warrior himself. "You are faster than you look," Vextar said after a particularly close attack. He was not breathing hard yet, but Hannah could see that he was starting to focus more seriously on the fight. "I had good teachers," she replied. "Earth military training is very thorough." "Earth military," Vextar repeated, and something changed in his voice. "Yes, I have heard of your warriors. They fight in groups, not alone. They depend on each other, instead of on their own strength. He swung his weapon again, this time aiming for her legs. Hannah jumped over the blade and rolled away. That must be nice, Vexstar continued, beginning to circle her again. To have others you can trust. To know that someone will help you if you fall. There was something in his voice now that had not been there before. Something that sounded almost like sadness. Do you fight alone by choice? Hannah asked, dodging another attack. Or because that is what champions must do? For just a moment, Vexstar's next strike came slower than it should have. The question had surprised him. Champions need no help, he said, but the words sounded like something he had been told to say. Not something he believed. The timer on the arena wall showed 10 minutes had passed. Hannah had survived longer than many professional fighters. But she had not attacked even once. The crowd was starting to wonder what her plan was. Vexstar wondered too. He began to use his other weapon, his voice. You fight well for someone so small, he said. But fighting well is not enough. Soon you will make a mistake. Soon you will be too tired to run away. And then I will break you. Maybe, Hannah said, breathing hard now. But I noticed something interesting about you, Vexstar. What? He demanded, swinging his glaive in a pattern that forced her to back toward the edge of the platform. You are holding back, she said. You could have hit me several times already, but you chose not to. Why? The champion stopped moving. For the first time since the fight began, he stood completely still. I do not hold back, he said. Yes, you do, Hannah replied gently. And I think I know why. The crowd sensed that something was changing. The noise level dropped as thousands of aliens leaned forward to hear what the human would say next. Hannah looked directly into Vexstar's yellow eyes. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear enough for everyone to hear. Because you are tired of hurting people, Korthok. The use of his real name hit the champion like a physical blow. He took a step backward, his plasma glaive wavering in his hands. The real battle was about to begin. His yellow eyes wide. No one had called him by his birth name in over 10 years. In the fighting world, he was only Vexstar, the Unbending. The name Korthok belonged to a different person, a young servant who had dreamed of becoming something more. How do you know that name? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I told you, I studied your history, Hannah said. She was still breathing hard from dodging his attacks, but her voice was calm. I learned about the servant boy who refused to accept his place in the world. The crowd began to murmur. Many of them did not understand what was happening. They had come to see a fight, but now the two warriors were just talking. Some aliens started shouting for action. But Warmaster Vekvin held up one clawed hand, and the Korath section fell quiet. He was watching Hannah with new interest. As a military leader, he knew that battles could be won with words as well as weapons. You know nothing about me, Vexstar said, but his voice shook slightly. He raised his plasma glaive again, but did not attack. I know more than you think, Hannah replied. She began to walk slowly around the platform, keeping her distance, but not running away. I know that your parents cleaned the floors in warrior training halls. I know that you watched the young nobles practice fighting while you emptied their trash. Vexstar's grip tightened on his weapon. Stop talking. I know that you practiced fighting moves in secret, Hannah continued. At night, when everyone else was sleeping, you would copy what you had seen the warriors do during the day. You had no teacher, no training weapons, no one to help you. I said stop. Vexstar charged at her again, swinging his glaive wildly. But his attacks were different. Now. Before, they had been controlled and precise. Now they were angry and desperate. Hannah dodged them more easily than before. You taught yourself everything, she said as she moved away from another swing. You made your own training ground in an old storage room. You practiced until your hands bled and your muscles screamed. The 15-minute mark passed on the arena timer. This was usually when most fighters had already given up. But Hannah was just getting started. When you finally got old enough to challenge for a place in the warrior training academy, they laughed at you, she said. A servant's son who thought he could fight with the nobles. Vextar stopped attacking and stood in the center of the platform. His chest was rising and falling rapidly, but not from physical effort. The memories Hannah was describing were more tiring than any battle. But you proved them wrong, Hannah said, and her voice became warmer. You beat every test they gave you. You were stronger than the nobles, faster than the nobles, smarter than the nobles. They had to let you in. Some of the crowd was getting restless. They wanted to see fighting, not talking. But others were becoming interested in the story. Even aliens from different species could understand the idea of someone fighting against unfair treatment. That was not the hardest part, though, Hannah continued. The hardest part was being alone. The noble students would not be your friend because you were born a servant. The servants would not be your friend because you had left them behind. You belonged nowhere. Vextar's hands trembled. The plasma glaive's energy flickered. You are trying to make me weak, he said. You think these words will break my concentration? No, Hannah said simply. I am trying to show you that I understand. She took a step closer to him. It was dangerous. He could easily reach her with his weapon, but she did not seem afraid. I understand what it feels like to be the only one, she said. I was the only woman in my military unit for 2 years. The men did not trust me because I was different. Other women thought I was trying to show off by joining the army. I ate alone, trained alone, slept alone. Vextar looked at her with confusion. You are, ... like me. In some ways, yes, Hannah said. I know what it feels like to prove yourself over and over, only to have people say you do not belong. I know what it feels like to be strong on the outside, while feeling empty on the inside. The crowd was quieter now. Even the aliens who did not understand the human language could sense that something important was happening. When you became champion, Hannah continued, you thought things would change. You thought finally, people would respect you. Finally, you would have friends and equals. Vextar's weapon lowered slightly. They respect me now, he said, but his voice was uncertain. They fear you, Hannah corrected gently. That is not the same thing. Fear can look like respect from the outside, but it feels different when you are the one receiving it. She gestured toward the crowd around them. Look at them. They cheer when you win, but do any of them actually care about you? Do any of them ask how you feel, or what you want, or if you are happy? Vextar looked up at the thousands of faces watching them. He had been fighting in arenas like this for years, but he had never really thought about the crowd this way before. They loved his victories, but they did not love him. Being champion means being alone, Hannah said. Always having to be strong, always having to win, never being allowed to show weakness or doubt or fear, never being allowed to be just. A person, champions, do not have the luxury of being people, Vextar said, repeating words he had been told many times. Who told you that? Hannah asked. Your trainers? Your managers? The people who make money from your fights? Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, everyone. Well, everyone was wrong, Hannah said firmly. Being strong does not mean you cannot feel pain. Being a champion does not mean you cannot need help. Being powerful does not mean you cannot be lonely. The timer showed 18 minutes had passed. Hannah was supposed to be trying to make Vextar surrender, but instead, she was giving him permission to be human, or whatever the Korath equivalent was. Why are you saying these things? Vextar asked. His voice was softer now, more confused than angry. Because, Hannah said, I see you. Not Vextar, the unbending, not the champion, not the legend. I see Korthak, the servant boy who worked harder than anyone else and never gave up. Tears began to form in Vextar's yellow eyes. The crowd gasped. No one had ever seen the champion cry. I see someone who has been carrying the weight of everyone's expectations for so long that he has forgotten what he actually wants, Hannah continued. I see someone who has been told to be a weapon for so long that he has forgotten how to be a person. Vextar's plasma glaive slipped from his hands and clattered to the platform floor. The weapon's energy field flickered and died. "I am tired," he whispered. "I am so tired of being strong all the time." "I know," Hannah said. "And that is okay. It is okay to be tired. It is okay to want something different. It is okay to not want to fight anymore." She took another step toward him. Now she was close enough that he could have grabbed her easily, but he did not move. "What do you want, Korthok?" she asked gently. "Not what everyone else wants from you. Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" Vextar looked at her, then at his fallen weapon, then at the crowd of aliens watching them. For the first time in years, someone was asking him what he wanted instead of telling him what he should do. The answer, when it came, surprised even him. "I want to go home," he said. "I want to see my parents again. I want to tell them that their son became a champion, and that I never forgot where I came from." The arena was completely silent now. Even the betting areas had stopped taking bets. Everyone was watching the most feared warrior in the galaxy discover that he was still underneath it all, just someone who missed his family. Minute 20 was approaching fast. Center of the arena, with tears streaming down his dark scales. His plasma glaive lay forgotten on the metal floor, its energy completely dead. Around them, 50,000 aliens sat in perfect silence, watching something they had never seen before. The galaxy's most feared warrior was crying. "I want to go home," he said again, his voice breaking. "But I cannot. I am the champion. I have duties. I have contracts. I have people who depend on me to keep winning." Hannah felt her own eyes getting wet. She had come here to defeat this creature, but now, all she wanted to do was help him. "What if I told you that going home was possible?" she said softly. "What if I told you that being champion was a choice, not a prison?" Vextar looked at her with confusion. "You do not understand. If I stop fighting, the Korath Empire will be dishonored. War Master Vekvin will be angry. The betting houses will lose money. Everyone will suffer because of my weakness." "That is not your responsibility," Hannah said firmly. "You are not required to carry the weight of an entire empire on your shoulders. You are not required to be unhappy so that other people can make money." She gestured toward the crowd around them. "Look at all these people. They came here to watch a fight. But what they are seeing instead is something much more important. They are seeing someone choose to be honest about their feelings." In the special viewing section, War Master Vekvan was leaning forward in his seat. His expression was impossible to read, but he was listening to every word. "In my culture," Hannah continued, "we have a saying: the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire, but it must be allowed to cool, or it will break. You have been in the fire for too long, Korthok. You need time to cool." Vextar shook his massive head. "I do not know how to be anything except a fighter. I do not know how to live without the arena." "Then learn," Hannah said simply. "You taught yourself how to fight when everyone said it was impossible. You can teach yourself how to live when everyone says you cannot." The timer on the arena wall showed 19 minutes and 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, if Vextar had not surrendered, Earth would lose the challenge. But Hannah was no longer thinking about the challenge. She was thinking about the person in front of her. "I have been alone for so long," Vextar whispered. "I do not remember what it feels like to have someone who cares." "You are not alone now," Hannah said. "I care. And I think, if you gave them a chance, there might be others who care too." She took another step closer. Now she was within arm's reach of the massive warrior. "Korthok," she said gently, "what would make you happy? Not everyone else. You." Vex closed his yellow eyes and thought for a long moment. When he opened them again, they were clearer than they had been in years. "I want to go home to my parents," he said. "I want to tell them I love them. I want to help them in their old age. I want to find work that helps people instead of hurting them. I want to make friends who like me for who I am, not for how well I fight." "Those are good things to want," Hannah said. "Those are normal, healthy things to want. But the fight," Vextar said, looking around the arena. The challenge: if I lose, your people will think I am weak. Hannah smiled. My people will think you are brave. It takes more courage to admit you want to change your life than it does to swing a weapon. The timer showed 15 seconds remaining. 10 seconds, 5 seconds, at exactly minute 20. Vexstar did something no one expected. He knelt down on the arena floor. I surrender, he said, his voice carrying clearly across the silent arena. Yield this match to Commander Lee Hanna of Earth. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, one person began to clap. It was War Master Vekvan. The Korath military leader stood up in his viewing box and applauded. His expression was still serious, but there was something like respect in his eyes. One by one, other Korath in the special section stood and joined their leader in clapping. Then aliens from other species began to applaud as well. Soon, the entire arena was filled with the sound of approval. But it was not the kind of cheering that usually followed a fight. This was different. This was the sound of people who had just witnessed something they would never forget. The fight judge, still looking confused by what had happened, raised his forearms. The winner, by surrender, is Commander Lee Hanna of Earth. But Hanna was not paying attention to the announcement. She was kneeling next to Vexstar, one hand on his massive shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. I do not know, he said honestly, but for the first time in years, I think I might be. War Master Vechven came down from the viewing area and walked onto the arena platform. His boots made sharp sounds on the metal as he approached the two fighters. Champion Vexstar, he said. Formally, my name is Korthak, the former champion replied, standing up slowly. I am not the champion anymore. Vekvan studied him for a moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He smiled. Very well, Korthok, he said. I believe it is time for you to go home. Hanna looked up at the Korath war leader. What about the trade agreement? What about the challenge? The challenge has been completed, Vekvan said. Earth's representative was asked to make our champion surrender within 1 hour. You succeeded in 20 minutes. He paused. How you did it is... interesting. Over the next few hours, as the crowd slowly left the arena and the news of the fight spread across the galaxy, War Master Vekvan and Admiral Park worked out a new trade agreement. It was fair to both sides, not because Earth had proven its strength through violence, but because they had shown something much more valuable. They had shown wisdom. 2 days later, Hanna stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, watching ships come and go in the space lanes below. Jae-sung found her there, reading a message on her tablet. Good news, he asked. Very good news, Hanna replied. Korthok made it home safely. He sent me a picture. She showed him the tablet screen. On it was a photo of a large Korath standing between two much smaller, older Korath. All three were smiling or doing whatever Korath did when they were happy. His parents? Jae-sung asked. His parents, Hanna confirmed. He says they cried when they saw him. Happy tears. What will he do now? He is going to work with young Korath who want to change their lives, Hanna said. Help them find training and education, no matter what family they were born into. He wants to make sure no other servant's child has to fight alone. Jae-sung nodded. That sounds like good work. The best kind of work, Hanna agreed. As they stood there watching the stars, a new message appeared on Hanna's tablet. It was from Earth Command, offering her a promotion and a new assignment. But there was also another message. This one was from the Galactic Diplomatic Corps, offering her a position as a cultural exchange specialist. Her job would be to help different species understand each other better. Hanna thought about the choice for exactly 3 seconds. I think, she said to Jae-sung, that I have found my calling. In the months that followed, the story of the human who defeated a champion with kindness instead of violence spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to look at humans differently. They were not just another warrior race or another group of traders, they were something new. They were bridge builders. They were the people who could see past differences to find common ground. And in a galaxy full of different species, with different needs and different fears, that was exactly what everyone needed. The fight that lasted 20 minutes changed more than just 2 lives. It changed how an entire galaxy thought about strength, about courage, and about what it really meant to win. Sometimes, the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from helping them become your friends.